From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer, Episode 6. I am your host, Coach Hector Cano. I'm joined by my lovely co-host here. He's no longer, do not refer to him as the most interesting man alive. He is not the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas high school soccer. We simply call him Hollywood now. He is Coach Rafa Casorena. Coach, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good here, live from Buda, Texas.
This is why you used to be the most interesting man in the world, right? So what's going on down there?
So I'm here doing a recruitment trip for the university I work with. Doing some. Yesterday I was at Crockett High School in Bowie. Hopefully I didn't give any bad luck to Bowie and going there. And then today I was at Manor and Manor New Tech. Tomorrow I'll be at Hayes High School, and then I finally get to come back home.
Yeah. So if you're still in the state playoffs, do not schedule Coach Rafa to come to your school. All right. So just FYI. Awesome. So dude, crazy, right? Crazy stuff, right? As expected, by district area regional quarterfinals. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but great show. We've got an absolutely loaded show today. We got Coach Bert Atilano from San Antonio Harlan. He'll be joining us momentarily. Then we're also going to go look at our game balls awards, our team stickers. Then we have Jackson Verwick of the Frisco Sports Network joining us later in the show, and then we'll wrap up. We'll look ahead at some of our highlighted regional tournament matches. We're not going to highlight all of them, obviously, because we could spend probably 2-3 episodes just on that, but we're going to look at about 6 on the boys side and 6 on the girls side, different, all two apiece from each classification. So it should be fun. But before we bring in Coach Atilano, tell us how's initial thoughts on just this by district area, and definitely last night, right? Monday and Tuesday, the regional quarterfinal, just chaos.
Yeah, when we did bracketology, we had some favorites, some clear favorites, and it's kind of gone out the window because there's, I guess, compared from the last few years we've done it, this year's been the surprise. We've had a lot of upsets. I guess you could say a lot of, I guess, Cinderella's not ready to go home yet, and we have a couple of them still, and some of the ones that we thought I think they were going to make it deep ended up kind of crashing and burning in some of the early rounds. But that just tells you, you can never know what could happen in the playoffs, and if you're peaking at the right time, or you end up with a really good matchup. Like last night, I was at the San Antonio Johnson Westlake game and Austin Westlake game there in San Marcos, and very, very. It was probably one of the best games I've seen. It was toe to toe. Both teams, the pedigree, they have lots of talent there, and it came down to a little defensive mistake, and then Johnson are able to pull off a win, and that's what it takes sometimes. Sometimes you do need some luck from the soccer gods, and to continue and survive to the next round.
Yeah, no doubt. Every year, without fail, without exception, even the most talented of teams, right? We talked about it. We posted about it the other night. I think it was Monday night and we'll talk more about this match later, but I think it was the boys 6A, Katy Seven Lakes and Jordan matchup, right? That we kind of hinted, a bit of a hint of luck goes along somewhere in there, is sprinkled in there, right? With a lot of talent to make that run all the way to a state title. You have to have something has to fall your way, bounce your way, insert whatever adjective, right, you want. But luck, no doubt, luck, definitely a little bit of luck in there. Obviously, just kind of, if it can go your way, it can be that difference, right? So, which is tough, right? Which is tough with as much as our coaches and teams prepare. I get it, right? You don't know, never are we saying that it's because someone got lucky, right? but a little bit of luck along the way for sure. So, you talked about last night's matchup there, San Antonio Johnson and Westlake. Great match, 2-1 the final. Johnson advances. Any other maybe just single match from yesterday or Monday in terms of the regional quarterfinal that you maybe kind of stood out to you?
The one that really stood out to me was the Life Waxahachie girls knocking off Stephenville. That was just out of left field because of what Stephenville. They were state finalists last year. We were kind of expecting maybe to get back to it again, depending on the game against Salado again, because I think those two were on a collision course. But you got to give credit to Life Waxahachie. They found a way. When you find a way, and that's all that matters. Because at the end of when the clock's at 0, if you're ahead, that's what counts. And so kudos to them. So those some prizes, and there's some first timers. I think we have quite a few first timers going into the regional tournament.
We do,
and like the Lavernia boys. They're first timer. A couple other ones too. I think even the girls from St. Ellie. I think they're for kind of like
they've been right around in this range, typically pretty close. But pretty awesome to see them kind of breaking through, matching the boys, right? Obviously, so. No doubt. And that Life Waxahachie. Wow. Yeah, I saw that. I had to do a triple take on that final score. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? These new teams that are now joining us, that are maybe for the quote unquote first timers, right? How do they handle this next phase, right? So we're through the first phase of the state playoffs, right? The bi-district area regional quarterfinal. How do they now, in a really tricky week where you have the regional quarterfinal and the regional tournament in the same week, right? So if you play Tuesday, you're looking at 3 high-level matchups, I guess, against probably the best talent your team has seen in what's that, 3 games in 4 days, right? So that's gonna be tough, right? Or 3 games in 4 days, or 3 games in 5 days, maybe. So if my math is right on that. So either way, that's gonna be tough. How do they handle that in terms of the semifinal, right? And then how much legs, how much depth? This is where 1, depth, and 2, coaching kind of starts to show, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing at this phase of the game when it comes to the playoffs, I think the 2 biggest factors is, there's a couple factors. One, how good you're playing. That's if you're clicking on behind cylinders, your confidence level is going to be up. Yeah. I think the second thing that's important is the coaching. Coaching really does matter. If this kind of separates. I don't want to say like the men from the boys, but as far as who's been in these battles, how can you game plan these games? How do you get out of these certain situations, and that's going to come down to the leadership. Are your players still buying what you're trying to do? Can they execute the game plan that you have set up for those games? And then the third thing I think is important is how healthy you are. I think injuries do. I think there's some teams that maybe were favored. I think maybe they got hit with the injury bug, maybe on the first playoff game, and just not able to recover. So those are kind of the 3 big factors.
Yeah, and no doubt there were definitely some teams that they, for lack of better words, they limped their way into the playoffs, right? Which is always tough. Which is for sure, it's always tough. But in terms of the next phase, the regional tournament, now we're going to kind of shift gears, start talking a little bit about that, and we are going to go ahead and bring in an individual who's very familiar to the regional tournament, Coach Bert Atilano of San Antonio Harlan. Coach, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Good, Coach. Thank you for being here. Hey, I almost didn't recognize you with the fresh haircut there, man.
Yeah, man. I've been getting that a lot. Yeah, it's been 4 years of that, and it's finally time to get it off and back to normal now. So.
Right. So is this the new kind of superstitious thing to try to maybe break through this time to Georgetown, kind of cut the hair, or no? No link there whatsoever.
No link there. It's just Texas Heat got to me last summer, and I was like, no, this summer's going to be different. But
yeah, hey, I'll cut your hair, coach. But I only know how to cut hair one way, right?
So yes, I know.
I love you. But coach, thanks for being here. Appreciate you, and congratulations again, fresh off your win last night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
1-0 on your birthday, as I understand that. Is that right?
Yeah, that was correct. Yeah, it's It normally, when we're lucky enough to make it this far, and the dates line up, it's probably about my fourth time that I played a playoff game on my birthday. So
awesome.
It's also neat to have that experience, and win on your birthday.
So are you undefeated on your birthday? I guess that's the question.
I am undefeated on my birthday.
There you go. So you got to petition the UIL, see if they can schedule the state final. Birthday, right?
Yeah, just around my birthday. That's right.
Awesome. So, coach, again, thank you for being here. But tell us, what has this, the season, kind of navigating the season? You win your district title again. What was that? The 6th straight year? What was that?
That's our 4th straight district title, undefeated district title here at Harlan.
Yeah.
4th year in 6A. So.
Guys
have been working hard, and that's one of the things, moving forward is our kids have that expectation, and they don't want to be that class that doesn't win it, that extra added pressure on their side. To me, it's, as long as we can get the best seed possible, but the kids, they always want, they don't want to be that class to break that streak per se. So
right.
But yeah, it's been our 4th consecutive district title.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations. And obviously it helps when you have talented players, no doubt. But what do you feel has kind of created, cultivated, and now kind of galvanized that culture there in terms of your district where it keeps going? What do you think has fed that?
It's just a culture of high expectations that we have at Harlan High School. And we've been blessed as well with players that are, number one, coachable. They're passionate for the sport. That gritty type of player that we've had. Yes, we've had talented players, but they've been talented players that aren't afraid to get in the mix. Very down to earth. And it's always easy to push into what a coach wants when the kids buy into it. And we've been blessed at Harlan to have great community, great parents, great families. And I think that goes, there's no mistake why those kids are like that, because their families are like that as well. Super supportive of anything that we do, and super blessed with our families and our students at Harlan.
Awesome. So before we get to the regional tournament, right, tell us, what has it been like wrapping up district and then kind of prepping, and then these first 3 rounds of the state playoffs so far? What have they been like? Have they kind of, obviously they've been a success, but have they kind of round by round matches in terms of just your substitutions, game plan? Have they played out the way you would have liked, or are there definitely lots of things to still work on? How has that played out?
Going into district play and doing what our kids have been doing, I was super pleased with the team that we had this year. Is much different than last year. I graduated 18 seniors last year. 15 seniors. I have 8 seniors on the team this year, and just a different dynamic. Super talented players last year. This year, we do have some talent, but it's not like we had last year. This team is more of a team effort all the way around, and then so we had some injuries early on, and we had to bring guys in that may have not got much playing time, but that was able to help us and grow our program, grow our team. And right now we're, I'd say, 80 to 90% healthy. We still have some guys that are still recovering, but at this point in time, I think every team is like that. And just that's that adversity with these deep playoff runs is you have to be able to, like I say, just get out there and be ready as much as possible. And going into the district, going into playoffs, we had Del Rio first round, Edinburgh second round, and Harlingen third round. And those first 2 matches against Del Rio and Edinburgh really allowed us to really get guys some experience Had a lot of success those 2 games, and we were able to play our guys, our starters, and quickly bring them out and have our number 2s and number 3s get in there and get a lot of playing time, get some experience, and hopefully that'll benefit us in the future. And then last night against Harlingen, that was a different type of game. 3rd round, with that, being able to go into the regional tournament, a little added pressure, different environment. And again, our guys were able to manage and pull out that 1-0 victory. But I think all those things have helped us and put us in a good situation moving forward into the regional tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. And we got a nice little welcoming message here from Coach Michael Strong over at Bernie here for you, Coach. Who invited this guy?
Yeah, Coach Strong.
No, he's got a nice little message there for you. So it wouldn't be Coach Strong without some kind of jab, right? Yeah. So awesome. Coach Strong, thanks for listening. Appreciate you. But yeah, so Rafa, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to you. Any questions for Coach Atilano?
I know he hammered my ex-team pretty good on that first round game. I'm sure they're still smarting that because I got calls about that game. Coach, going into this Friday's game against Vandergrift, how do the boys feel right now coming into this game? I know it's going to be a tougher opponent than Harlingen because like I said, Vandergrift knocked off a really good, talented Austin Bowie team. So, how do you guys feel about this game coming up?
I think our guys are confident. Our guys understand that it's not going to be the same type of game. But on my side, that's why I like to schedule a tough preseason schedule all the way from scrimmages. Getting Johnson, getting Reagan, getting Lee in there. We had Alexander United for scrimmages, and then going to the Elite Showcase in Dallas, and then going to the Lake Travis tournament. I think. Going through that gauntlet of a preseason, in my opinion, can set us up. And I think we're reaping those benefits right now that, going through that preseason, going into district, our guys are able to compete against, some of the better teams out in the state because our guys consider our team to be one of the best teams in the state as well. So, it definitely will be a different opponent. But our guys are ready and ready for Vandergrift.
Yeah, we got Coach Johnson from Johnson here rooting for you for an all SA regional final.
That'd be great.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Johnson as well.
Same colors too. I mean, it's
same colors.
Right?
Yeah. Who's the home team in that one? Right? How do you determine that one?
Oh, it's through UIL. It's already set up that way. So
right.
they'd be the home team. They're on the top of the bracket. We're on the bottom side. So yeah.
You're not gonna try to flip them, get another coin flip in there, right? So you can wear your baby blues.
I like Coach Johnson to have his colors.
Maybe have the game there. Move it to Toyota, right?
There you go.
Neutral site there.
Now, so Coach, this is your 3rd time in 4 years. Obviously, unfortunately, you weren't there last year, but you assess this team from the previous 2 teams, 2021, 2022. What is the key characteristic, the key trait that's different about this group this year?
It's just, like I said, believing and trusting. I think that's the biggest one this year was trust. Those 8 guys, the seniors that have, out of those 8, only 2 were freshmen and were part of those the 2021 season against Lake Travis. A lot of playing time in 2022. So those guys, setting the example, and again, trusting in each other. That's been one big thing. One of our words this year is trust. We have to trust in each other, in what we do, how we carry ourselves. But that's been the biggest trait and big characteristic that I've kind of pulled away from this season is trust. Trusting on my end, on the coaching staff, trusting our players through injuries and all that, and who's going to step in and who's going to do all that. To those captains and those leaders on the team, trusting their teammates and the young guys coming up. So I think that's our biggest one this year is trust.
Yeah. I hear you talk about trust, and obviously a vital piece, but sometimes as coaches, we have to remind ourselves to practice what we preach right on that one, as far as showing them that trust as well. So no doubt I agree with you on that one. Rafa, you got anything else for Coach?
Yeah. As far as going into this season, what was some of the expectations? Because you mentioned about losing all those 15 seniors. How did the team feel about like the expectation, or how far can they go? How are they feeling now, knowing that they're at this point and they're 2 steps away from going to Georgetown?
Yeah, that was definitely at the beginning of the season, and even at the end of last season. When they finally realized that, hey, you know what, these guys, after that last game, hey, they're not a part of our off-season workouts anymore. So 2 weeks into off-season, those guys had to start leading each other, and I think that's when they realized that, you know what, hey, and we do have enough to do damage and to have a successful season the following year. And coming into this year, our summer workouts, everything that the guys, all the time the guys put into it, led by our seniors, them doing it on their own and all that. I think that helped and has created a different team this year by far. And it's just, again, we're not as talented individually as we were last year, but as a team, I think we move the ball well. We can play different styles of play. Obviously, with our injuries this year, we had 2 or 3 different formations that we had to kind of adjust to and use to find some success. So our guys are battle tested. They believe in each other. They fight for each other, because that's another one of our words at Harlan is family. And we really believe in that, and those guys buy into that. And, that's what I'm super excited about this year, because I think they have put themselves in a situation to be successful. And they believe they can match up against anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Coach, obviously you're no stranger to the regional tournament, playing at home. They're at Comalander, and that's where you return again this year. And obviously, and you also know, or I'm sure you're aware of that narrative that's floating out there, right, in terms of the San Antonio Austin rivalry, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly at the 6A level. How much, from your perspective, from your experience, how much has playing in that regional tournament here at home at Comalander, how much has it been as much of a home field advantage as it sounds like on paper, or what has been that experience for you in the last couple of years, and what are you hoping for this year?
I think at this stage, going into the regional tournament, whether it's on your home, your home city, your hometown or not, I think our kids are so used to travel with club and with our tournaments that I think they adjust easily, whether you're at home or away. So I don't really see it as an advantage. I do see by far that's been our biggest turnout, mm-hmm. as far as fans. These the last 2 times we were at the regional tournament. So that's going to be a big plus and a big help for us. But I just think that the teams are, at that point, those teams are, they're ready for that. So I don't see too much an advantage of, as far as a team, being a home team or in your home city, hometown. And that's another one of the reasons why we go and we travel to Dallas and we go travel to Austin, just to kind of get that different feel. Hey, you know what? We're the only ones in this town that we're not from here, or we are from here, playing at home. So just kind of setting them up for success and not being the first time that they get to the regional tournament and their first time they're experiencing something. If we're fortunate enough to make it to the state tournament, it's not the first time they're going out and staying in a hotel and going to a different town, because we've done it before. So I just think that preparation is key, and as much as we can do to prepare ourselves, I think all coaches do that for their teams that are here at the regional tournament.
Yeah. Awesome. Coach, this has been great. Really appreciate your time. Obviously, we know you're busy. We know you got to prep, and wishing you the absolute best of luck. And more to come from Rafa and I, as we will be in attendance and we will be on the call there covering your match. So we're looking forward to covering that as well. Really appreciate your time. But before we let you go, as is customary, kind of want to give you the opportunity, give you the floor. Any shout outs, thank yous, anything that's on your mind regarding your team, the game, anything, the floor is yours.
Just want to thank you guys, first of all, for inviting me and having me on and showcasing Harlan and San Antonio area and the state. I'm a big proponent in advocating for our sport, and that's why I'm also heavily involved in TASCO and have been doing that for quite some time. So shout out to TASCO and what they do for our coaches here in Texas, and then our families here at Harlan, my personal family as well, for for my kids and all that stuff for kind of being at home, alone for some time there while we go on our runs and our tournaments and all that. And then our families for Harlan, for all that, our administration. And I just want as many people here in San Antonio to come out to the regional tournament this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Like I said, Johnson's in it. We're in it. Again, just come support your hometown teams.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, Coach, can you give us that time, kickoff time versus Vandegrift on Friday again?
At 6 p.m. It's set for 6 p.m. We're the last game, so
right.
There's three regional
what that means,
tournament games there. So I'm sure somebody's going into overtime, and that's going to extend it. But it's set for 6 o'clock at Comalander. So again, just come out and support all your teams. Awesome.
Thank you. He is Coach Bert Atilano, the head men's soccer coach of the Harlan Hawks, who will face Vandegrift in the 6A Region 4 regional tournament this Friday. Coach, best of luck. Appreciate your time. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good night. Sweet. What'd you think, man?
Yeah, for what he's done at Harlan, he's really built a really great, not only soccer culture, but a great program that's, year in, year out, like a serious contender, not only originally, but also now they're starting to take that next step to become one of the better programs in the state. And, to do it with all those seniors that they lost last year, they really got this team believing. And I can only imagine next year, they're probably going to be one of those teams to look out for in Region 4 and even also say statewide too. So, but they got a tough one with Vandegrift. I think they've faced each other. I think in the past, I'm not too sure. I got to check on that. I think they've made it face it.
This year?
In the past tournaments.
You're talking about this year. I was like, no, okay.
Yeah, I think they've made a face in the past terms. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But like I said, you got two quality programs, and you got like I said, Austin versus San Antonio, and so something's got to give way here. It's like maybe you have an all San Antonio final.
Yeah,
that's a possibility. But like I said, they do have their hands full with Vandegrift. But I think, like I said, the boys are believing, and I think they have a good shot at getting to the next round.
Yeah. Yeah, and and really appreciate him coming on. I became a big, coach. It's ironic that we had Coach Johnson chime in here as well from Johnson, because I kind of became a big fan of both of them. I got to talk with them a little bit more last November at the the TASCO, Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention, and a little bit more insight on them. But just my big takeaway. And then a couple of other meetings where I got to talk with Coach Johnson more, since we're in the same ISD, is that they're just good guys. They're really good guys. So when you see great quality coaches that are also quality human beings, and they're, their heart's in the right place, good intentions, and what they're doing for their communities, their players, and our sport, it's very easy to root for them, and wish them the best of luck. So yeah, no doubt. All right, so we're going to switch gears here, Coach. And so again, thanks to Coach Atilano joining us, and switching gears here. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our Game Balls Award, as well as our team stickers here. So if you're not familiar with us, so Game Balls here, what we typically do, so both Rafa and I, we will designate one girl from the girl side of the house and one boy from the boy side of the house for a Game Ball Award for any number of reasons. And then we will do the same. We designate a team on both sides of the house for any recent accomplishments. So, Coach, let's start off with Game Balls. Take it away. The floor is yours.
So for my girls' Game Ball, I'm giving it to Callie Gilliam from Brazos Woods High School. She's a goalkeeper for Brazos Woods, and she made some two incredible saves against in the playoff last night. So I think taking Brazos Woods for the first ever regional tournament. So she's getting my Game Ball for the girls' side, and then for the boys' side, I was there last night at the game. I'm giving it to Diego Robles from Johnson High School. He hit the game winner, little cheeky little play, little flip over the goalkeeper, kind of off the line.
7 minutes left, I think.
It's about 7 minutes left, yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing about, not only that goal, but he really stood out. He really hustled. He fought for a lot of the balls. And he was very, taking a lot of the Westside players 1-on-1, and he was a difference maker in that game. But I know it's a team effort, but him, you can tell he really stood out. He was fighting for balls and so forth. So, but for him to get the game winner, send Johnson to the regional tournament. So I'm giving him the game ball for the boys.
Awesome. And for my game balls on the girls' side, I want to select, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this might have been one who you selected last season, maybe, because I want to say you selected her last year, but Emily Sidner, I think, Tomball Memorial. She had the game-winning goal versus my Bridgeland, right? I make no secrets about it that I was obviously very high on Bridgeland. And she had the game-winning goal late in the match versus Bridgeland. So shout out to her. Again, that's Emily Sidner from Tomball Memorial. Apologies if I'm not saying your last name correctly, Sidnor. And then on the boys' side, guy who put in an incredible shift in that penalty shootout between Katy Seven Lakes and Katy Jordan. Ben Aviles Vera from Katy Seven Lakes. He saved two in the shootout. He saved two penalties, and then also had the game-winning penalty versus Katy Jordan in a high-drama shootout. So congratulations to Ben Aviles Vera as well as Emily Sidnor, both from Katy Seven Lakes and Tomball Memorial, respectively. All right, Coach, team stickers, who do you got?
So for the girls' side, I'm actually going to give this, and we mentioned them earlier, the Life Waxahachie team. First ever Region 1 4A tournament. And they knocked off the defending state finalist Stephenville, which, like I said, caught a lot of people by surprise. So I'm giving them the game ball, and like I said, don't take them lightly. Like I said, they could be that team that really, who knows, it may be their destiny to get to Georgetown. I know they got some tough teams coming up. They got a tough game against San Eli.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it turns out on Friday. And then for the boys' side, another kind of first timer in the regional tournament for also in 4A Region 4. I have the Liburnia Bears.
Right. Yeah.
Congratulations to them. Got a 3-0 win over a really good Austin Achieve team that was making some noise in the playoffs, and so now they're heading down to Corpus, seeing if they can continue the journey and get to Georgetown.
Yeah, no doubt. Life Waxahachie with it's turning into maybe the story of the entire state, right? Potentially. So congratulations to them. And my team stickers on the girls' side, Katy Jordan, who, if you know or you are familiar with the background story, they've been through an awful lot in the last month for a number of personal reasons. And they defeated Stratford, another team that I was very, very high on in Stratford, in 7 rounds of penalties. Katy Jordan was actually, they were 2 penalties behind in this shootout, and pulled it out. So kudos to them. Congratulations to Katy Jordan on advancing to the regional tournament. And then on the boys' side, the Kingwood High School Mustangs, their first regional tournament appearance in 11 years, and they'll be facing Katy Cinco Ranch. So congratulations to them. Pretty awesome. I didn't realize it had been 11 years. So that was pretty amazing. So congratulations again, both the Katy Jordan girls and the Kingwood Mustang boys. Congratulations. But yeah, that's going to do it for both our game balls and our team stickers. We'll be right back shortly with a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back with Jackson Verwick of the Frisco Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Looking to step up your social media marketing game? Well, let us tell you about our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches, ADs, SIDs, and club directors who use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part? Anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're going to love this as well, as you are what they call the power user, and this is designed with you in mind as well. And just for being a listener and supporter of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive savings immediately and save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And then there are our great friends at Global Scarves. Both Bill and Kyle, they are the top providers of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. They do so much more, guys, than just scarves. Blankets, beanies, you name it. It's all designed and all customized to your specifications and needs. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or maybe even a supporters group. Simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod, and they will be sure to take care of it. All right, and we are back, and we're going to go ahead and bring him in, a gentleman who we've quickly become a fan of, and he's kind of been gave us a little bit of shout outs and some love as well. He is Jackson Verwick of the Frisco Sports Network. Jackson, how are you, buddy?
Good. How are you guys doing tonight? I've been listening to you guys so far tonight. It's been a lot of fun listening so far.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And
Sure.
what is going on? I know you were covering matches since the state playoffs started, and I know you just came in from covering a track meet as well, of all things, right?
Yes, sir. Covering the District 10 5A track meet for FISD, but more on the soccer side of things. I mean, FISD has had a numerous amount of success so far this postseason. 5 teams participating in the regional semifinal in these upcoming matchups, and 2 of those schools having the guys and girls both make it, with Panther Creek and Wakeland respectively as well. And last night, Frisco took on a really talented West Mesquite team in a game that was a heartbreaker. Frisco was unable to win that game to advance to the regional semifinal. But I think something that's really interesting to keep note of, you guys talked about the very beginning of the show, is sometimes you see teams that are less talented end up coming up with a win. And I think that was the story of the season for Frisco High. They beat a lot of teams that they were not anywhere near talent-wise. And Dallas Morning News actually predicted Frisco Centennial versus Frisco. They predicted Centen to go all the way to the regional final to lose to Prosper Walnut Grove, and they ended up getting first rounded. So I think that kind of attests to exactly what you guys were saying. Like, and on any given night, the team that's less talented could end up coming up with a win. I just think that's really emphasized so far this playoff run.
Right. So, so far, going through, one of the things that I often ask, and you've been covering them, you're very familiar with, with the programs there, Frisco ISD.
Yes, sir.
And we look at, so they're kind of spread out over a couple of districts, but when you look at those schools in their maybe their respective districts, or even just the Frisco ISD in general, how would you describe maybe the personality of those programs, the personality of those districts?
I think even like outside of soccer, just the like almost like inner city rivalries that get developed within Frisco ISD, I think is the best part of having like 12 high schools in one district. It's kind of like that, almost like that college level of like, oh, this school versus this school is like a matchup you always got to see. In recent years, it's been Frisco versus Wakeland. Wakeland's had so much success the past couple seasons, going to state multiple times on the girls and guys side of things. And they actually both just beat the same Walnut Grove team for guys and girls in their last matchup in the regional quarterfinal, in games that were nail biters for the girls, more of a blowout for the guys, 4-1 win. Goal scored by Thomas Hayes and Jack Mingsky and Tanner Bowman as well. I mean, Wakeland is that program has been phenomenal all season long. But kind of to answer your question more in depthly in terms of like those personalities within the programs, I mean, just developing the rivalries, but then also in the same token, when a team like Wakeland ends up going really far, having the support of 10, 11 other high schools that may have not made it as far to the state title game. We saw it last year, the Frisco girls made it all the way to the state title game and lost in a 1-0 loss, but still getting second place. I mean, every FISD school packed that stadium and down in San Antonio. That environment, that kind of family-like energy that's developed is honestly the best part of having such a loaded district full of talent and solid personnel as well.
Yeah. I have kind of an affectionate nickname for Wakeland, right? Both the boys and girls, particularly the boys program, right? I don't know if you've heard it. I call them El Cucuy, right? Because they're just the boogeyman, right? They're the team you do not want to see on your bracket, right? They just, I make the joke. I made the joke with them here when they were on a Champions episode with us after they just won state title, that they in January they make their reservations for Georgetown in April, right? So they're just so synonymous. It was so weird not seeing them there in Georgetown last year, right? So, which I believe was their first time in 7 years, I think it was. So
it was a massive, it was crazy last year. But not to interrupt you, but the right side of the regional bracket, I filled one out for region 5A division, region 2 for 5A. And so far, picks have been pretty solid, up 20 for 22. But that right side of the bracket, those two matchups, Wakeland versus Walnut Grove, and then you got McKinney North versus Wakeland. I mean, that's going to be a phenomenal game. I mean, I think Wakeland loses it just due to the consistency of McKinney North. I mean, Wakeland has kind of been up and down all season. District play, they've been solid, but I mean, they lost the season series to Frisco, and Frisco really shouldn't have even made it past the second round, but they did due to their kind of the underdog mentality. They kind of adapted over at Frisco. And I just think McKinney North have been so consistent all season, which is a parallel because the girls for Wakeland have been so consistent, haven't lost a game all year, 2 ties, 22 wins. Like, I think at one point the number 1 rated team on Max Preps in the state of Texas. I think they're somewhere in the top 10 now. But it's crazy just the amount of talent in FISD is really awesome to see.
Yeah. When you talk about the McKinney North boys, tell us a little bit more about what is it that we maybe don't know enough around the state about them.
I mean, McKinney North is just such a talented team. I mean, full of talent everywhere. Senior goalkeeper Weston Stoll has been an absolute defensive anchor for this team, a captain for this team. He's been a 3-year starter, has really held it down defensively, for the Bulldogs, and they've been a contender. I have them winning the regional final and going to state. I have them winning in my bracket just because of that overall consistency. I mean, going undefeated in district play, only 1 tie and a couple fluke losses here and there to LaSalle early on in the season. After that, the Bulldogs and company really just locked in. And I think in terms of to more answer your question in terms of what the state is missing out on is just the adjustments that CJ Shelton can make as the head coach of the Bulldogs have been impressive throughout the entire season. I mentioned that early loss to LaSalle. And after that, they really just kind of hindered things down defensively because that was the reason why they lost that game. Offensively, they've been fantastic all season. Top, I believe, 10 or 15 in the state and goals scored. Goals allowed on the other side has been where they've struggled a little bit, but since that LaSalle game, I mean, they've really locked things down defensively, and I think that's why they're ultimately going to be the team that represents 5A Region 2 in the state tournament.
Rafa, you got anything for Jackson?
Yeah, going with the Frisco teams, the biggest surprise was the defending state champion Lone Star not making the playoffs. How'd you feel about that?
It was absurd. I mean, it was just they graduated so many seniors. It was insane. I mean, back almost a parallel, making a lot of parallels here in FISD, and that's what you can kind of do when you have a district with so many high schools. Lone Star won state all the way last year and then couldn't even battle in to be the 4th seed. The story there is really interesting, though, because they actually won their last game, but because of Frisco and Reedy tying in a game where Frisco was heavily favored, the point differential ended up the 3 points that Lone Star got from that win ended up not mattering because of the no points gained for Reedy or Frisco. So Reedy ended up tying, but stayed the 4 seed, and Lone Star ultimately was the 5 seed. But that's really similar to what we saw with the Frisco high school girls this year. They went all the way, as I just mentioned previously, second in state to not even making close to making the playoffs this past season, finishing near the bottom of District 9-5A. So it really kind of shows how much talent is in FISD, but how much that talent almost shifts, and not only in soccer, but especially in soccer alone. I mean, we've seen the emergence of Walnut Grove and a heavily Frisco district with the fall of Heritage. I know that's the whole thing, but still Heritage was a really talented soccer team this year. And so, but it's almost like that talent continues to shift around the entire district. And I think that's one of the best parts is seeing one year you may see a team like Lone Star go all the way to state and win it, but now you're seeing Wakeland, who has been a dominant powerhouse and almost one of the most consistent teams out of the entire FISD district, consistently win. But even when they don't win, you see teams like Frisco pop in and win. And your Heritage as well, just the talent all around is immense.
Yeah. So, without mentioning, we're not going to get into particulars and name an actual school, but I know recently there was some controversy up there, right, in a particular district. What is the climate like now dealing with that and going forward into the state playoffs? Is that kind of an out of sight, out of mind thing, or where are we with that?
To not give specifics, I would say that I kind of like what you said with it, kind of an out of sight, out of mind, kind of leaving it in the past. I mean, ultimately, I think the final decision was made, and I think there wasn't really an argument with it. I think, and that was the professional way to handle it. Ultimately, I don't think that I think not arguing with it, kind of just accepting it and moving on and going on to next season. I understand for the seniors that must kind of be a downer. You have a great season, you're not able to play in the playoffs, but I'd say the district as a whole kind of took it as a message to not play around and ultimately to move on and kind of leave that in the past. I really liked how you said that.
Yeah. Just, they didn't really want to harp on it too much, but I know since if there's anyone probably worth asking, that it would be you. So I know you're familiar with that.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, Rafa, you got anything else for Jackson?
Yeah, the also the surprise team. I know the girls side has been Panther Creek. I know they get the teams, the 5A teams get most of the love
Oh,
or
big
the
time,
coverage.
yeah. But they've been.
But shootout went over Salina. How do you
Mhm.
feel about them going in? Because they may end up playing against each other in that regional final.
I know that would be awesome as a rematch. But Panther Creek is just such a young team because it's such a new school. So they've had young playmakers all over the field, like Zara Worma, a sophomore forward who's been absolutely fantastic, averaging almost 2 goals a game this season. But also Ava Garvin, who's really managed to dish out the ball while averaging just over 1 assist per game. I mean, Panther Creek, not only the girls, but the boys have been so successful. But it's really odd, though, because their play styles are so different. The girls play such an aggressive style of soccer compared to the boys that like to get early leads and then kind of just park the bus is how I kind of like to think of it, is terms of just
Yeah.
getting up early and then almost just playing keep away from the opposing team and really chewing that time of possession. And so it's weird. They both had so much success this season. They're still alive in their respective playoff runs, but the complete opposite ends almost of the spectrum. Like you got Panther Creek attack, and you got the overly defensive mindset for the boys. I mean, it's just been really awesome to see it. I think it's given them a lot of love, and I think they really got their athletics put on the map when their football team made a really like Cinderella-like run that they're doing right now for soccer in the 4A region. They went all the way to the round 3 and lost to the eventual state champion Anna. But still, I mean, Panther Creek Athletics only in its first season of varsity play for football, its second season for soccer. I mean, it's been really exciting to see this team kind of come alive despite having only a couple seniors on it.
That's pretty awesome stuff. Now, tell us, so we start looking forward to the regional tournaments, and you've hinted on some of it a little bit, but highlight maybe boys side, girls side, maybe 1 or 2 matchups on each side that you really maybe want to highlight going into this Friday.
Okay, I got you for sure. So one of those games for sure, no doubt, I think is going to be one of the most entertaining games of the entire season. Is going to be the Wakeland Wolverine on the boys side of things. Is going to be the Wakeland Wolverines taking on the McKinney North Bulldogs. I mean, I kind of talked about why I love McKinney North so much, but still, I mean, Wakeland, despite having one of the smaller senior classes that they've had in recent years, they've been able to go on a relatively not unexpected run, but more of a dominant run than what we expected. They go 4-0 against Reading round 1, but they barely get out of round 2 against WT White, and they dominate Walnut Grove in round 3, which was a game I thought was going to be much more closer than it was. And Wakeland has had such a tough side of this bracket that I think they're almost like battle tested in a way and ready to play this McKinney North team. And I ultimately think that's why it's going to be such a good game. Though I have Wakeland losing in that game, I still think it's going to be like a classic. Mm-hmm. I anticipate 2-1, 3-2, a game that's decided in the final minutes. For sure. But another game on the boys' side of things.
No penalties in that one, huh? You don't see pens in that?
No pens in that one. I think
no shootout.
Done late, but I wouldn't mind seeing some PKs in that one. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. And and still staying in Region 5A, Region 2 is West Mesquite versus Kingwood Park. I mean, West Mesquite, I feel like has not necessarily been a Cinderella story, but they've gone a lot farther than I think most expected. I picked them to get to this point and play Kingwood Park, but the atmosphere that I was at last night for Frisco versus West Mesquite, I mean, was one of the best environments I've ever been in a sporting environment in my entire life. And I know I haven't covered a lot of sports, but I mean, the energy and the fans, the way they almost influenced the ball game and almost force the refs to make a call when, I mean, in a normal game, you might have not seen a call just due to almost like overemphasized amount of like the crowd and fan reactions in the game. I mean, those are some of the most dedicated sports fans I think I've ever seen in my life. So West Mesquite versus Kingwood Park is going to be a really exciting ball game because Kingwood Park has absolutely breezed through their playoff runs. They've won every game by, I believe, more than 3. So it's going to be really fun to see a Kingwood Park team that is so talented go up against a team that is finally within their same range. I believe they're both ranked in the top 50 of Max Preps' State of Texas ranking. So it's going to be really fun to see that top 50 matchup so late. And I think ultimately that game is going to be and back to that Wakeland McKinney North game. I think the McKinney North Wakeland game is ultimately going to be what the regional final game is. Because I believe whoever wins that ball game between McKinney North and Wakeland is going to take care of West Mesquite or Kingwood Park, no matter what.
Right. And that ultimately becomes the case, right? Is when you make it to this next phase of state playoff soccer is you got to do everything you can to survive the semifinal and make it to the final. So depth becomes an issue. And one thing that you highlighted earlier for McKinney North is coaching, right? Adjustments, right? Is who can make those better on the fly, because in our sport, there is no timeout. You get halftime. And then if you're going to extra time, you get another opportunity, and that's about it. So you got to make those on the fly. So Rafa, you got anything else for Jackson?
Yeah, going into, like I said, this weekend, any other key matchups, maybe outside of Frisco. I know because you have also the Region 1-2 with the Metroplex. Are there any key games you're really interested in looking at?
Yeah, I'm really staying in that 5A aspect. Monterey versus Midlothian, I think, is going to be a really good game as well. I mean, they've both been teams that have kind of been battle tested throughout the playoffs. They both won some of their games have been blowouts, obviously, but a lot of their games have been very tightly contested matches that have been the difference of like one call versus or just one goal. And I think when you have two teams that have played in such tightly contested games, that's how you have that tension. That's why in that West Mesquite versus Frisco gaming, those two teams like weren't really supposed to be there. And so it's almost they both have this like underdog mindset, and the chirpiness that goes back and forth and this over physical kind of style of soccer is personally what I love to see. And things got a little chirpy last night. You don't love to see that, but I mean, sometimes kind of adds that animosity, especially when the crowd gets into it and you see some shoving, you get some physicality, not the whole 9 yards like a fight or anything, but still, I think that's what ultimately is going to happen between the two MHS schools. Personally, I think that's going to be an exciting game. They're going to go against the state tourney. They're going to go to the state title game to face off against McKinney North or Wakeland, I think, more than likely in the state semifinals. So I think those two, that was kind of 2 to 3 kind of clumps of games are going to be so exciting due to just the amount of close and contested games that all 6 of those teams have played.
Now, will you be on the call? Will you be on the call for that Wakeland McKinney North match?
I'm not sure I'll be on the call for that game, but I'm definitely going to be at that game for sure.
You're covering it, yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
If you are on the call or you cover anything, just you got to sneak in El Cucuy in there for me for when you're talking about Wakeland. Right? So,
absolutely, especially if they come out with a win. I'll throw on maybe some player interviews asking, "What are your thoughts on the El Cucuy mindset?" Something like that for sure. I got you.
Yeah.
They might have to get T-shirts that say El Cucuy.
I'm gonna have to trademark that.
Yeah, they're gonna have to trademark that.
That's what some of the schools have done. I mean, this past season, Frisco High School's motto was "Take their cookies" on the back of all their shirts. So I think the El Cucuy might be able to top that slogan for sure.
There you go. So here's a quick question. So Ken Murphy's in here from Ken Murphy Photography. Shout out to Ken. Thank you, as always,
sure.
One of our most faithful listeners and supporters. Thank you, Ken. Thoughts on South Lake Carroll and Prosper on the girls' side, because this is going to be a heavyweight match here.
Yeah, I think I love the 6A matchups because not only just because the teams themselves, but the amount of fan turnout you see. I kind of hinted on that for West Mesquite, but it's different though because it's consistent fan turnout. So it's almost like these teams are used to it versus like some 4A and 5A schools that may be smaller, not as big of a fan turnout. I mean, and they're usually in those bigger stadiums that have more capacity. So, and I kind of like what Ken Murphy said. I mean, the defense for Prosper, I think, is what's going to give them the edge over South Lake Carroll, but just the energy and atmosphere of that ball game, I think, is going to be unmatched just due to the amount of people that are going to be there for both sides. And I think those are two state caliber teams that unfortunately have to play so early in the bracket.
Yeah, no doubt. So Jackson, this has been awesome. Really appreciate you. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
We know you literally, no pun intended, ran in from covering a track meet. So really appreciate you. And but as is customary, as we did with Coach Atilano, whenever we have a guest on here, we like to give them the opportunity, shout outs, thank yous, talk about anything that's on your mind as it relates to the game or the state playoffs themselves. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys so much. The @Jack Varick TV is my social on all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. I just want to say thank you to you guys for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it. Getting to cover the FISD soccer so far and towards the later end of district play and into the playoffs has been super fun. Getting to take some photos, getting on the call for some of the girls' action has been a lot of fun. So a special thank you to the Frisco Sports Network and my producer, Stephen Thordy, and my crew, Ian Masood, and a night of making that possible. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just want to say thank you guys once again for having me on. I really appreciate it. Can I ask one quick question though? Is that all right with y'all?
Sure.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
So what do you guys think of the FISD district? I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on just having so many high schools in one thing? And ultimately, like, who do you guys have? Do you have any FISD schools making it, whether it's Panther Creek, Wakeland? Who do you guys have?
Man, you would ask that 55 minutes into our episode, right? That's like another 2 hours.
That's a loaded question. My bad.
No. You're great. So I'll step into it first in terms of my thoughts on just in general. It's, a phenomenal culture. One of the things of just culture of excellence across the board. It's kind of why I asked that question a little bit in terms of characteristics and personality because I know they're sprinkled across multiple districts, but just in terms of within the ISD. But then also, for example, to answer one of your questions, Wakeland, I'm not going against them until they're out of the tournament.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
They're
like
just,
it's hard to bet against Lakeland in any
yeah,
capacity. I agree
yeah,
with you.
they've proven me wrong so many times, and they just, like I tell you, that is what, one of my mottos for my squad is culture wins championships. And that's how I view them. It's kind of why I affectionately gave them that El Cucuy nickname, because they're a machine. It's just, new year, you said it yourself, right? They're young, and yet they're still, any other, probably most programs, they would be considered like, wow, massively overachieving this year. But because it's Wakeland, they're just
Exactly. Just
expected.
pumping
They're
out
expected to be
victories.
there, right? They're expected to be there. So yeah, that's who. But I'm excited. You got me excited about McKinney North. McKinney North is one that I've been tracking closely and
Mhm.
becoming a bigger fan of as well. So excited. That's going to be a phenomenal matchup as well. But I'll pass it over to Rafa.
Yeah, I think Frisco's the district. I mean, how could you not have a Frisco team in Georgetown? That's kind of like when you don't see a Frisco team in Georgetown, it's like, what happened? That's just become the norm. Especially with the pedigree that Wakeland has. I think that's a lot of the teams in the state want to get to that level. Have that consistency, but also the girls teams have done it too. They've been I think they've established themselves. Each year. And the biggest surprise is with all those schools that they have, you would kind of think it'd be watered down a lot of the talent, but no,
It's crazy.
You have other teams like Reedy's a great program.
Yeah.
When
You talk about
All-Star
Reedy girls
last
there.
year, they just pump out soccer players there, and I can only imagine if they're going to end up adding three. I'm wondering if they're going to add three more high schools. How that's going to, they're going to end up having two district, more districts. But how do you feel? I'm going to ask you a question. How do you feel about the Frisco soccer? Having all these schools. Do you think maybe at some point it's going to hit like a peak and maybe things will settle down, or are they just the talent is just so much there in that district?
Yeah, and I that's a question that is kind of asked a lot, is just how the impact of so many schools, the talent disparity. And I know some people have come with some hypotheticals like, man, what if Frisco was like kind of playing like the Plano, like Frisco East or Frisco West or whatever? And those teams would be absurdly talented, because the amount of talent just in terms of youth sports in the North Texas area is just insane.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you talked about a team like a team not even hit or get on is the Reedy girls soccer team, and they're still dancing too. They've got one of the top goal scorers in the entire state in Zara Jacobs and Louis Troiano and Ashley Rodbanowitz. I mean, they have so much talent only in Reedy alone, and so. But I kind of what you were saying in terms of, I think at some point it may get to a point of like plateauing. I know there was hints that maybe at some point maybe combining some teams that ever got to a point, like two smaller programs that like haven't had as much success, almost kind of turning into one kind of sort of unit. But I think we're really far away from that point in time. I think that the 12 high school model is still relatively new, with Emerson and Panther Creek both being added within the last 2 to 3 years. What I will kind of say as a caveat to that, I don't think they'll build anymore. If it's possible to throw a 13th high school in there, I mean, to be honest, I don't even know what you name it at that point. I feel like you've hit as many possible names as you can, and as many different mascots as well, from the Raccoons to the Panthers. I mean, you kind of hit every possible creature in the forest there. But I think it's definitely going to be a while till we see a 13th high school in Frisco. But even if it gets to that point, I mean, the amount of talent, I think they could handle it.
Right. Yeah. And, and that was kind of one of the reasons why I asked that particular question about the program, right? Dealing with the controversy, right? Because I kind of wanted to gauge where that's at, because that's such a, that ISD and just that area is just so, it's truly iron sharpens iron, right? And I was just kind of curious how they were handling that in particular. But, and Limsey's in here and mentions this, Highland Park joining the mix next year.
I saw that. I was going to try and comment. I mean, that's the realignment for UIL. I mean, not only for soccer, but for basketball is absolutely absurd. For the football, I mean, they bring McKinney North into the bigger Frisco district. They bump down Frisco Liberty, who's struggled football-wise. But, I mean, here's the weird thing, is that there's not one school that's dominant at every single sport. Every school almost has at least one sport they're dominant in. Like LT, who has struggled in soccer and football terms, they have a very dominant tennis team. And then you look at Frisco Liberty, they haven't won a football game since 2021, but they just went back-to-back for girls basketball. So in state title. They won the state title back-to-back years with uberly talented teams. And Ross Reedy, the head coach of the girls basketball team, has won 7 state titles in his time there. It's absurd. So obviously adding in Highland Park is going to impact the district, and it's going to make it for kind of add tougher district matchups. But it almost helps these teams more by playing tougher district games where they aren't beating down on each other, but they have a chance to play other teams that aren't just in Frisco. And I think it's almost like it's another non-district game when you have a team like Highland Park or McKinney North get added to an FISD heavy district, because they're so unused to playing them that it's like practicing almost for a playoff game, because you play these teams. I mean, Frisco, Reedy, Wakeland have played each other so many times that the tendencies and personnel and sets and everything like that for any type of sport, but for specifically soccer, is something that you can kind of pick up on. And that's kind of what I believe the difference was when Frisco played Wakeland the first time in Toyota Stadium. Frisco got up early and parked the bus. It's kind of what Frisco's model has been all season, getting those 1-0, 2-1, like really, really kind of nitty gritty wins. And Wakeland tied them the second time, but they were able to stay more aggressive and not let Frisco park the bus as much on them. So kind of to answer your question, though, kind of talking a little, kind of going off stray here. Highland Park, McKinney, those teams I think are ultimately going to benefit those teams in the FISD heavy districts for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Great. Well said. Great question as well. And then, yeah, I mean, we even had, where was he? I know I saw his comment here, posted it a second ago. So yeah. Ken Murphy here was talking about the same thing, right? With Highland Park, just further culture, right? Just such a big piece. So again, he is Jackson Verwick of the Frisco Sports Network. Jackson, appreciate you. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me on tonight, guys. I really appreciate it.
We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch to have you on in the future. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Great stuff from Jackson. So what'd you think?
Great insight on what it's, you've always been curious, like the Frisco teams, because like I said, they get a lot of, publicity up there, but here's more of the inside of, about these teams. And, every year that's always someone's going to be a contender, like I mentioned, but the Frisco High, but Centennial, Reedy. So it just shows like that, I think Frisco IZ is starting to become like the mecca of Texas high school soccer as far as, just the talent. If you kind of look at the other districts in the state, with that many schools, you got to rank them high as far as maybe probably the top, I guess they could be the top, ISD when it comes to men's and women's soccer there in the state. And just the consistency, what, these teams have done in the playoffs. Like I said, look how Wakeland's really established themselves. And then last year with Lone Star, you got Reedy, Panther Creek. So it's interesting to see in the future what they have in store. The next, especially this coming realignment.
Yeah, no doubt. And shout out there to Panther Creek's Ava Garvin. No, we just mentioned you there. Jackson mentioned you a few minutes ago. Thank you for listening and for the shout out as well. Thank you for connecting there, Ken. Really appreciate you. Limsey came in here with some great comments as well. Thank you to him, and a big thank you to again Jackson Verwick of the Frisco Sports Network for joining us. Great content, great insight as well. So, all right, man. Final stage regional. We're gonna talk some regional tournaments, some regional tournament matchups here. We're gonna go ahead and highlight some key matchups. As we mentioned, we're not gonna discuss every single match, every single event, but what we are going to do is we're going to highlight 6 and 6, 6 on the girls' side, 6 on the boys' side, 2 apiece across each classification. So first one, Salina versus Jacksonville, Region 2 4A. Thoughts on this one, Rafa?
I think this is probably one of the sleeper games that probably a lot of people are maybe anticipating. This probably could be a real classical game. Salina's history. They're going for another state title. Jacksonville's kind of really established themselves in East Texas, and this is, like I said, this is a big game for them, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be back and forth, and so whoever's out there, get the opportunity to watch this game. They're in for a treat. And then you look at that second game. that's a rematch from last year, and I think Bay
yeah.
City, you know, love their tweets over that. So whoever's their graphic designer, kudos to them.
Yeah.
I think they're
best.
really, absolute best. We also got to give the Hargrave too. They got some good ones too. I like some of their stuff, so shout out to them too. But Bay City, I think they're really looking for some revenge in this game, and I think this year could be the year. I know they were heartbroken last year. Lumberton said they had a great squad last year. We'll see how this one goes. And then you look at the other two, like Leander Rouse and Rouse versus McAllen. So you have the Austin versus the Valley team. And McAllen Memorial's been the dominant team for, you know, in the Valley, whether 5A, 4A, 5A, 6A. They've really established something, you know, great down there. But now they have a test, you know. Can they compete against, you know, the teams here like in the Austin, San Antonio, Austin area? And then the other game, PNG, what can you say about them? Another great season for them.
Right.
But they got an interesting matchup with Hendrickson, and that Hendrickson's teams had some surprise wins and
kind of a Hendrickson squad that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, not this far.
Yeah, but because I said they've been in this situation in the past, so like I said, so you know they finally kind of got some things together, and like I said, they're in the hunt. And who's to say they don't get to play in their backyard? Not too far away up the road,
right?
Up 35, and then what can you say about game number 5? Like what Jackson mentioned, it's gonna be a classic, and I mean this could be a state championship game if they were in 2 different regions.
Absolutely.
But you know, Prosper, they finally kind of got into you know so a lot of the disappointment from last few years, you know, falling short. But you know, this is going to be a great test for South Lake Carroll. You know, about great offense versus defense. You know, like I mentioned, like him mentions here. Too bad this is so early, but you know,
too bad it's so early. Yeah,
you know, we'll see
he's
how
big.
South Lake.
He's big on that Prosper defense too.
Yeah. Well, like they say, defense wins championships.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Carroll's really on a mission. I think, especially from the disappointment from last year, I think they're very focused. I think they have a chip on their shoulder and they have something to prove. But I could see this game going to PKs, and then the one we actually get to see on Friday. Very talented Round Rock team. Like I said, they were there last year. You know, can they? You know, I think they're a lot better this year. But same thing with Taft. You know, they're back at it again. You know, last year they fell a game short against one of the Round Rock teams. This is be a great matchup. You know, Taft.
This is the other rematch in these set of 6, right? There are no strangers to the playing at this point, right? So last year it was, I cannot recall off the top of my head what the final was in that. Do you recall that?
I think Taft had the lead, and then they ended up. I think they lost 2-1, and I think a late goal kind of pretty much, you know, and then also the weather was also a factor there too, and I think there was a miss call too on a foul, I think on their keeper. So you know the Taft girls are looking forward for this game, and they're gonna give it everything they got, you know. And I know they have their hands full here with Round Rock, but I think they're motivated enough. But it's gonna be a great game, especially we're gonna be there. We get to call that game there on for Friday afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, so much going on here in these 6, and I just, you know, honestly, the hardest time I had was just being able to only pick 6, right? 2 per classification. That was really the hardest part. Because there was so many directions I could go with this stuff here. But yeah, I think that, you know, just Salina, Jacksonville, Salina, very much similar to kind of like a Wakeland, right? It's like, I'm not going against them until someone beats them, right? I'm not going against them, right? So Coach Adams has done a tremendous job up there in Salina. Really looking forward to this Lumberton Bay City matchup. I think just has a chance to really be, you know, potentially the 4A matchup, you know, the matchup of all of 4A in the region of all the regional semifinals potentially. And I feel very similar about that PNG Pflugerville Hendrickson matchup, right? So, and then one to really, I think that's kind of got me salivating here is just Leander Rouse and McAllen Memorial. McAllen Memorial having just their most historic season ever, right? And then just a really strong Rouse team coming out of an incredibly strong district that's really shining so far. So looking forward to covering that one, seeing that one as well. And then of course, as you mentioned, I mean, Carroll, Prosper, don't really have to go into much detail on that. And then being able to be on the call, we will be on the call there this Friday, Comalander Stadium for the Region 4 6A regional tournament. We will be on the call there for Round Rock and San Antonio Taft as well. So great stuff. And moving on to the boys' side, we'll start off here. Tell me your thoughts on these first two here, Coach.
Yeah, some interesting matchups. So you're here, like, well, San Eli's been the staple, one of the staples for 4A boys soccer. Like I said, they have a few state titles. But the surprise this year is Castleberry. Castleberry, like I said, I did have them. Like I said, it was a few times in my power rankings. This is going to be a test for them. Can they slay the dragon there in Region 1, and get to Georgetown? So they got a tall task. Like I said, I know the San Lely boys are going to bring it. But I think the one that's going to overshadow that is that game number 2, the Bernie Hidalgo. That's the rematch from last year. And Coach Strong and the Bernie boys, I think they had this game circled around.
Oh, yeah.
They've been waiting for this. I think they want some, this is for what happened last year. Hidalgo ended up winning the state title. This year they're back at it. I think Bernie's on a mission. I think they got something to prove, and I think they're going to take out, try to take out their frustrations on not getting that third straight title and against them. So, but that's going to be a great game. I think that's being played in Corpus Christi.
Right. Yeah, you hit on that. You hit on that. Both of these, and it's kind of, I was in the middle of when we were putting this together, right? This graphic together. I was on maybe starting number 3 when we realized that, I mean, this is really kind of my picks who I see on a collision course to potentially face each other at some point in Georgetown, Bernie and San Eli, right? Obviously, Castleberry and Hidalgo didn't get the memo, right? They're gonna have something to say about that. But yeah, I agree with you. Just San Eli, Coach Sappenfield just doing remarkable things there. That's another example of culture, right? Same thing with Bernie. Bernie in their final year in 4A, and Coach Strong has them back. He really has them back, and I think they're just kind of licking their chops. They wanted this matchup, and so yeah, should be a great game. Both of these. All right, Coach. Our next two there, 3 and 4.
So 3, we have West Mesquite and Kingwood Park. Your classic Houston versus Dallas matchup. Kingwood Park's been in this, this round before. Like I said, they have gone on. Like I said, a couple years ago, I got to see them play. End up going to the state final. But what a great season for West Mesquite. Can they, get it together there in the region 2? Because for Region 2, because that one's always a tough region. Like I said, I think the marquee games also, like I said, McKinney North and Wakeland. I think they're getting more of the press, but I think West Mesquite and Kingwood Park are like, well, we're here too. I think they want to have something to prove. And then game number 4, Southwest and Brownsville Lopez, and this one's going to be at the Brownsville Sports Park. So Brownsville Lopez is going to have that very rabid crowd, and I've been to some of their games, and they can really intimidate you. And these Valley teams, when they play down there, they really feed off that, those fans. Southwest is going to have to run the gauntlet. They've come, like I said, last year they came short, losing the Sharing Land. This is a great opportunity for them. They're going to have, like I said, they're going to have to run the gauntlet in order to get to Georgetown, but they have like I said, they do have the talent. They had a great big win last night. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. And then another one, number 5 is I know the Prosper girls have been getting the kind of the coverage, but the boys they've made some noise there in Region 1, and some great expectations for them. But they got a really tough test with the Pebble Hills. And what can you say about Pebble Hills? They Yeah, I know Del Valle and Bel Air kind of gets the, and East Lake gets the, the coverage, but Pebble Hills has put a phenomenal season here. And we may end up seeing an all El Paso final. When would that be in Region 1?
Could you
Because
imagine
what
that?
he's
Could you imagine
that in all in
Wow.
all Pebble Hills versus Eastlake final. That's a possibility. So, but like I
Mhm.
said, Prosper does have this. This is
Yeah.
going to be a great matchup. Dallas versus El Paso. You know how
Yeah.
those games are. And
And
then
you talk about
6.
Eastlake, right? Eastlake is not in here, right? They're not one of our highlighted matches, but Eastlake has that pedigree. They're very familiar with being here. Pebble Hills is, they're not the upstart per se. They've been around for a little bit now, but definitely their most talented squad. And Prosper definitely has to come to play because Pebble Hills is going to make them earn it. And if they allow Pebble Hills to get off to a fast start, early start, it could be a tough one for Prosper. But yeah, I think I agree. Prosper girls getting a lot of the talk, but yeah, I think Prosper boys will be ready as well. And go ahead, finish up with 6, Coach.
Yeah, 6 is another great matchup. Because we just talked with Coach right here. Like I said, Harlan, like I said, had a tough game like last night against Harlingen, but great win. But I think that adversity is going to help them out because they have a really chance matchup with Vandergrift, and Vandergrift's kind of really bounced back. The last couple of years have kind of fallen short early in the rounds. I know they had a great run a couple of years ago. Here, there's the opportunity. They beat a very good Austin Bowie team, who we thought was probably going to be the favorite again to win the region, but they went out there, took care of business, and this, like I said, this is going to be a great game. So we also get to be on the call for this. So I'm looking forward for this matchup at 6 p.m. tomorrow night on Friday night at Comalander Stadium.
Yeah, and shout out there again. So Ken Murphy will be covering. Yeah, you're gonna get to see some great games there, Ken. Right, South Lake Carroll Prosper girls and Prosper boys versus El Paso Pebble Hills. So we'll be looking forward to some of your great work there. Yeah, it looks like and that's the other great thing going into this regional tournament. This regional tournament round. It looks like we're gonna have great weather for the most part across the state, is what it looks like. So, but yeah, Sanelli, Castleberry, Bernie, Hidalgo, we already hit on those. West Mesquite, Kingwood Park, really big on West Mesquite, really liking them. And, this is a San Antonio Southwest squad that I just saw in person yesterday, right? Versus MacArthur, San Antonio MacArthur, taking on, this is a team that's been knocking on the door here for a while now, right about here. And to do it, to get to Georgetown, they're going to have to, as you said, run that gauntlet, walk that gauntlet, whatever you want to call it. In Brownsville versus potentially not one but 2 Brownsville squads, right? So that'll be a fun one. And we talked about Pebble Hills and Prosper, and then Vandergrift, and we had Coach Atilano from Harlan, San Antonio Harlan, on here earlier. Vandergrift, right? Just feel like, why is nobody talking about them? Why is nobody there? I don't know if they are the Rodney Dangerfield here of Region 4-6A or what's going on. They just maybe not getting the respect that, obviously I know Coach Atilano is going to have his group at Harlan, with respect and ready to play Vandergrift, but I just feel like, why? I don't know. They just keep kind of getting picked against some, and they keep pulling it out. They keep pulling it out. What are your thoughts on so we'll be on the call for this one, obviously, but your thoughts on this one in particular, once again, in terms of a matchup with Vandergrift and San Antonio Harlan?
With Vandergrift, I think they've kind of flown under the radar, even though they've had a successful season. I think because Austin Bowie was getting most of the kind of the attention, but last night they proved something, and they said, hey, we pretty much, took out the favorite, and now I think they've positioned themselves to be maybe now the favorite, but what Harlan may have something to say about that. Johnson may have something to say about that. So maybe Enderburg North has to say about that. But I think that win right there really kind of solidified themselves and said, hey, we're for real, because we knocked off the favorite for the region. But like I said, Harlan's going to be ready to go. I think, like I said, what they've built this last few years coming here, I know they've fallen short in the semifinal because I know we called one when they lost to Lake Travis, and that was a great game too. And a couple of years ago, I think they had another battle with them too, in the close of this round. So I think is this a one where we do end up getting an all San Antonio final, or do we get another Austin San Antonio final with Vandergrift, maybe Johnson? We'll see.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I asked Coach Atilano about that. I'm not going to call it a perceived home field advantage, but on paper, right? Just because, obviously recent history has shown us that it has not always necessarily worked out that way, right? In terms of particularly San Antonio versus Austin here in 6A at Comalander. So yeah, great matchup. Very excited to be calling those. And again, if you're just joining us, we were mentioning that a couple of times, and more details to come on that. But we will be in attendance on the call for multiple 6A Region 4 regional tournament matches. And don't know if we're going to cover all 4 yet. I know Rafa and I still have to coordinate schedules, but I think they're 11, 1, 4, and 6 are the kickoff times. And that's the other interesting piece, right? Is because Coach Atilano mentioned that they may, they're scheduled for the last one of the day at 6, but who knows what time they even see the field, right? Who knows what time they step on for pregame warmups, right? So because you can get a little antsy there after a while, because just one more thing. Yes, they're experienced, they're used to travel, but there's just one more thing that just kind of, you have to be flexible and just can throw off your routine just a little bit. So, yeah, so looking forward to covering that on the call as well. So, that's it, Coach. That's going to do it. We wrapped up another one, episode 6 of Inside Texas High School Soccer. Next episode, obviously, if you're seeing this, you can see this on the bottom ticker. If you're hearing this after the fact, our next episode is coming. This will be this Sunday, April 7th. Time is still to be determined. We're finalizing that. That obviously will depend on how things play out on Saturday as well, since we will potentially be on the call for maybe 1 or 2 regional finals as well. So, but yeah, that's going to do it, Coach. Stoppage time, final thoughts, shout outs, whatever you got. What do you got?
Yeah, just shout out to all the people, like I said, I've seen at a lot of the playoff games. I know it's tough for me because, like I said, I do work. I do travel a lot. I'm not retired, so I can go to every single game and so forth. So I try my best. But the thing is, thank you for all the praises, not for the Fifth Wheel podcast, but also for San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. So, like I said, we try to do as much as we can to cover some of the games. Especially like last night, I know, Coach, you were there at Ferris Stadium. I was here at San Marcos covering the Westlake and Johnson game. So, like I said, we try our best to get to as many games as we can, like depending on our schedules. Because, like I said, we do have jobs and stuff. So once I'm retired, I can go to any game I want and go anywhere I want. So, so hopefully that'll be soon. Maybe soon.
You're way too young. Way too young to be retired. Yeah.
Well,
you're not old like me. You're not old like me.
No. Maybe if I hit the lotto, so maybe I can retire young and so forth.
There you go.
So if you got your Powerball tickets, hopefully you got those. But like I said, I'm looking forward for this week. For this weekend, some great matchups. For all the teams that are in this, so like I said, be proud of what you have accomplished, because you're in the final 16 teams. It is very difficult to get to this stage. Embrace the moment, enjoy it, and that's something when you look back on, it's something to be really proud of. And then for the teams that advance, that get to Georgetown the next week, starting next Wednesday. Like I said, that's where we're going to see a lot of, some very interesting matchups, especially how they're Yo-Yo Perzum, and hopefully, like I said, we'll by next, I guess, like I said, by next Saturday evening, we'll have some new state champions.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? We're entering, what is that? The last 10, 11 days of the season, right? So yeah, next Wednesday, it all starts next Wednesday, right? The final, or the road ends there in Georgetown. And we'll be excited to bring you daily coverage of that. More details to come as well. So we just got to take it one episode at a time, right? Got to get to episode 7, which will be this Sunday. Time to be determined, and we'll give you all your post regional tournament coverage recaps, and might have on a guest or two as well. So looking forward to that. And my final thoughts. You mentioned some of it. Just I wanted to kind of hit on the other side of it. And again, thanks to Coach Atilan for joining us. Really appreciate you. Great guy, man. Great guy.
Yeah.
The other side of it, you talked about the teams that are still in, but I kind of also wanted to address the teams that are no longer in, right? Just to make it, obviously, some districts incredibly tough just to qualify, right, for the state playoffs and to be part of the tournament. It's kind of the reason why we call it the dance and we call it March Madness, kind of a play on words from the college basketball March Madness. But the reality of it is it's incredible. It's just to be part of it, right? The event, phase one complete by district, area, regional quarterfinal. Phase 2 about to begin on Friday. And you're right, by Saturday evening, by this time Saturday night, we should know we'll know what our state tournament matchups are going to be. But for those who, whether it was in by district area or maybe Monday or last night in the regional quarterfinal, were eliminated, keep your heads held up high. Particularly the group that I want to address are seniors, right? The ones who played their last game in their jersey for their school, for their community, with their classmates, with their teammates, with their best of friends who played for the last time. So, and you're right. You talk about being in the moment, never taking it for granted. And it really is kind of a bittersweet piece of, I hate to see it for athletes, but I love to see what it means to them, So, for our athletes everywhere, our student athletes everywhere, having played their last game, those seniors, we're with you. We appreciate you. You're a big reason why we do this, why we cover the game and what we pour into it in terms of our heart, our passion. It's for you all. And it's to try to pass that along for one day for you all to pay it forward to the next generation. And just really proud of you guys. Have loved it's been, I've said it now for the last 3 years, that I've had the best seat in the house, being able to cover our sport, cover the college game as well, and just have some incredible guests on here, incredible coaches. The relationships, the friendships, the partnerships I've been able to form by virtue of this, of the podcast, it humbles me, and I'm grateful for it. And I speak from a little bit of raw emotion as well, because my girls' team was eliminated last Friday in an unbelievable area round matchup, and so proud of them, really grateful for them. And to return to the public side after being away, to return to the UIL side, it's just been such a blessing. I've had such a tremendous year, such a great first year at San Antonio MacArthur. I'm grateful for all our coaches, our administration, but particularly my student athletes and my seniors. Love you guys. Thank you. So that's going to do it. Thanks again to everybody. So for Coach Bert Atilano and Jackson Verwick from the Frisco Sports Network and San Antonio Harlan, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate everybody. You are the reason why we do it. We cannot stress that enough. And you know what to do. We'll be back on Sunday with episode 7. But until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep